Okay, welcome everyone to this month's webinar on CBT for tech addiction called Help, I Can't Get Off My Phone with Mike Christensen and Tony Weiss. And I'm Jill Levitt. So let me just start out by telling you guys a little bit about who we are at Feeling Good Institute. Let me give you a quick snapshot of kind of what we're about and share with you our mission, which is to make a difference in people's lives through elevating the practice of therapy. And our story started with one big goal, which was to make therapy better and to help people who are going through tough times. We achieve this by training and certifying therapists in effective therapy techniques that have been developed by David Burns. We have clinics in California and New York, and we offer video therapy across the US and Canada. And we offer regular traditional weekly therapy sessions as well as intensive therapy, where patients join us for several hours a day, several days a week to really kind of speed up their treatment. And I'll just tell you a little bit about myself and my journey. I'm a clinical psychologist and I'm the director of training at the Feeling Good Institute. And I was originally trained by some of the world's most prominent CBT leaders in our field, like David Barlow and Edna Foa over on the East Coast. But I feel like my effectiveness as a therapist really dramatically increased when I started working with David Burns at Stanford University out here in California over 17 years ago. And the framework that David created, which is called Team CBT, provides a really structured and feedback-driven approach that helps therapists to tailor their interventions more precisely and measure progress in real time. And it's really profoundly changed the way that I practice. It's taught me step by step how to make therapy exceptionally effective. And David Burns's methods emphasize frequent assessment, active empathy skills, addressing resistance, and of course, powerful CBT strategies that lead to quicker improvements in mood, anxiety, and even habits and addictions, as you'll see today. So I'm excited to give you guys a glimpse into this approach to CBT in our monthly webinars. And with the next slide, I'll also share with you that when I started learning from David Burns back in 2008, really the only way to get trained in this Team CBT model was to learn directly from David at Stanford or to attend one of his intensives. And learning this model took years of training. And my colleagues and I have worked really hard over the years at Feeling Good Institute to develop a therapist training program that helps you to become an excellent therapist at a fraction of the time. We've certified over 2,000 therapists in Team CBT, and we've transformed therapist practices with this approach. So the methods that you'll see today are really powerful and only the tip of the iceberg. On this slide, you can see the journey that we hope you might join us on. And if you're excited to take the next step and really master some of the skills you're learning today, we'd invite you to join us in our next workshop or to enroll in our Core Skills for Effective Therapy course, which is asynchronous. And both of those options would give you level 1 certification and teach you the fundamentals so you can start applying these techniques right away with your own clients. And then if you're looking to become truly excellent and really kind of fast track your progress, we offer the Fast Track to Level 3 program. And in this training, you'd earn 42 CE credits while you learn and practice over 50 cutting-edge CBT techniques under the guidance of David Burns, myself, Mike Christensen, Maor Katz, and other expert trainers at the Feeling Good Institute. So now let me introduce you to our presenters today. Let's see. Oh, let me tell you first, sorry, about how to get your continuing education credit today, and then I'll introduce you to the presenters. So this is very simple. At about 5 of the hour today in the chat box, we will drop the link for you to complete the CE survey. You must do it then before the end of the hour, get it done. And then within a week, we will email you your CE certificate of completion. So you'll click the link to complete the CE survey and then do the get your certificate of completion within a week via email, so not instantly. I've already introduced myself to you, so now I want to introduce you to Mike and Tony. I am really excited to introduce both of them to you. Mike Christensen's journey is a really powerful example of the transformative impact of Team CBT training. Mike has a really rich background spanning business, community organizations, and even family support roles. So he's already had a really made a big commitment to making a difference in people's lives, but he always felt he could be doing more. And once Mike got trained in Team CBT, things really turned around. His confidence soared as he mastered precise and actionable techniques that delivered faster and more consistent results for his clients. And today, as the director of professional development at the Institute and director of FGI Canada, Mike is a certified level 5 master team CBT therapist in training, and his expertise now fuels advanced training for therapists worldwide and has culminated in co-authoring the Deliberate Practice of Team CBT book. Mike's evolution from a passionate counselor to a now global leader in Team CBT is an awesome example of how this training can really revolutionize both your practice and your therapy outcomes. So I'm excited to have Mike with us today. And Tony Weiss, MALMSW, specializes in treating addiction, relationship issues, anxiety, and depression. And with over 5 years of practice under his belt, Tony took our fast track to level 3 Team CBT certification course and quickly established himself as an excellent and effective therapist. And his remarkable progress led to an invitation to join the Feeling Good Institute as an affiliated clinician. And I'm so happy that Tony is here with us today to share with us his expertise. So I'm going to turn it over to Mike and Tony now.
Thanks so much, Jill. It's humbling to have that introduction. Tony and I just sometimes I think feel like we're just a couple of guys wanting to make a difference, and have been so blessed with the opportunities to learn and grow at FGI. Our hope for today is to do a couple of things. One is clarify a definition of technology addiction. What does it actually mean? And then look at how do we assess resistance to change. And then finally, we'll introduce you to a couple of methods. It's just a little bit of a snapshot. And there's more opportunity that we'll be telling you about to learn more of the methods in a workshop that's coming up at the end of the month as well. And hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll be able to do two things. The one is identify a specific tempting situation and a goal behavior, which will be foundational for a deeper understanding of what your clients and patients are experiencing, but also to help us assess the resistance and look at the methods that we'll use. And then we're going to use what's called the double paradox and teach you how to set that up to address and assess the resistance to change. Before we dive in, we want to start with a definition of addiction, and Merriam-Webster gives a real nice academic one where it says a compulsive, chronic, physiological, or psychological need for a habit-forming substance, behavior, or activity having harmful physical, psychological, or social effects, and typically causing well-defined symptoms such as anxiety, irritability, tremors, or nausea upon withdrawal or abstinence. I also like that they've included a second definition, which is a strong inclination to do, use, or indulge in something repeatedly. Which really highlights that there's a spectrum of intensity and difficulty when we have a habit or addiction, if we look at it from that range. And I think we're all on that spectrum in some level, and particularly in this day and age, technology addiction spans across the ages and the demographics. My personal definition is any substance or behavior that provides some measure of short-term pleasure or relief, but has longer-term negative consequences. And we've lost some degree of control over that substance or behavior at the level that we'd like. It's got a power over us despite our best intentions. And some of you may have attended the webinar that Tony and I did in the fall, which is, much the same it is today. We've updated it. But when Jill asked us to do it, because we've got a bit of a theme of habits and addictions going this year, Tony and I jumped at the chance because it's personal for us. It's real for us. We both have struggled in various ways in different angles. And so our hope is that you'll come along the journey with us as part of learning for yourself, but as well as learning for your clients. If you look in the DSM-5, there is no criteria for technology addiction. You can't be diagnosed with a technology addiction based on DSM criteria currently. But that doesn't mean it's not a problem. It doesn't mean it doesn't impact us. The forms of technology addiction can include, social media, gaming, online shopping, things like reels or shorts or shows. Certainly, pornography is a massive one. Even good things like emails and group chats where we can be so connected to our phone. And just recently I was meeting with a guy and we were looking at doing some scheduling and he said, "Oh, I don't have my smartphone with me." And I said, "Oh, well, why is that?" He said, "Well, I just have a flip phone right now." And then I said, "Oh, that's interesting." And he said, "Yeah, I work for myself, and when I'm at work, I used to waste so much time on my phone that I have to leave it in my vehicle. But customers can still get a hold of me because I've got my phone, my flip phone." And so he'd removed the phone from his presence while he was at work because he couldn't handle it. It had gained this control over him. And I suspect that all of us resonate with that in some way. And there's disturbing trends that's happening with our accessibility and availability of technology that has this control over us. And Tony's going to highlight a little bit of that for us.
Yeah, so these are some pretty harrowing statistics, so buckle up. So, so if the average human lifespan is around 79 years, we can estimate that about 26 of those years are spent sleeping, 7 of those years are spent trying to fall asleep, 13 years working, 4 years eating, 3 years in the bathroom, 3 years in commuting, 2 years doing household chores. That leaves us with around 12 years of actual free time, true free time, across an entire lifespan. Now, consider this. The average person spends about 7 years on their smartphone. That's 7 out of the 12 years of their free time. And what's even more alarming is for younger generations, this number is creeping towards 10 years. 10 out of 12 years of true free time. We are now spending almost all of our available attention and leisure by looking at our screens.
Now, when we think about, other people and addictions, it's easy to see the problem other people have. But when we do a little self-assessment, it's not a stretch to recognize that we all can get caught up in it. So we're going to do a little poll of what I would suggest is a highly advanced group of people, mental health, practitioners who know better, and I want you to respond to this statement on an disagree to strongly agree. I spend more time on my phone or device than I would like. We'll give you about 30 seconds to answer that, and then we'll share the results. Do you strongly disagree, neutral, agree, or strongly agree with that statement? I spend more time on my phone or device than I would like. Let's give you a few more seconds to answer there. And great, Jill, would you share the results with us? Well, of the 415 that answered, we have 28% that strongly agree. 44% that agree, 12 are neutral, just 9 disagree, and only 8 strongly disagree. So there is the vast majority of us would actually like to spend less time on our phone or device. It has some measure of control over us. And to bring this to life, we ask yourself, are addictions really problems, right? Like, is spending too much time on my phone really a problem? I worked in an addictions treatment center for many years, and I used to think of them addictions as problems. I don't see them that way anymore. I actually see any addictive substance or behavior as being an effective short-term solution. You see, it provides some measure of either pain relief or pleasure or escape. And in order to connect in a deep and empathic way, we need to actually shift our thinking about addictions and see them as powerful solutions that just may not be working anymore. Our phones are incredible devices. We can do a lot on them, with our work and research and learning things. But when they get overused or they steal our free time up to 10 years out of our life, um, our goal is then to be able to support people in finding new solutions. First we need to honor the brilliance and beauty of the current solution, the addictive behavior. Then we can address potential ways of getting free from it, getting relief from it. So Tony's going to tell us, bring to life the story of Sarah to help us understand and get an inside look about what this is like.
So Sarah is a mom and a really skilled, fantastic therapist. She loves her work and places a lot of value on being connected and supportive of her family. So Sarah's currently struggling, despite her best intentions, with getting sucked into scrolling on Pinterest, where she'll research craft project ideas. And she'll do this instead of completing her therapy notes at the end of the workday. So this frustrating habit is preventing her from keeping up with her professional obligations at the standard she expects from herself, which is a high standard. And it leaves her feeling really stressed with the growing backlog of work and this a terrible feeling that she's taking time away from her family. So what we need to do in order to help Sarah is pinpoint a specific moment in time. What's the precise moment just before Sarah engages in the addictive behavior? Uh, we do this to discover all of the thoughts, emotions, and driving motivational forces occurring in that specific moment. Once we do that, then we can learn and apply self-control methods and strategies that can be used in other similar moments when tempted to use, so to speak. So we need to isolate what the current behavior is, the drug of choice. So for Sarah, that would be scrolling Pinterest for creative project ideas at the end of the workday at 4:30 p.m. And it's crucial that we've really got a clear idea of exactly what's going on here, so we'll be able to address all of the resistance and the issues that accompany it. So once we have the current behavior really nailed down, we would move to the goal behavior, because once we take away a behavior, we need to replace it with something. It can't exist in a vacuum. So Sarah's chosen for her goal behavior, the one that will replace this, as completing her case notes and admin tasks for 30 minutes at 4:30 every day.
This foundational information really helps set us up to assess and address the resistance that will be present. And when we have the current behavior, we know what the pull will be towards that behavior. And we also want to identify what will be the push away from the goal behavior. Why will she not want to do that? And this is where we use something called the double paradox. And the double paradox is very different than a standard cost-benefit analysis. It's paradoxical in nature. We're not looking at the costs and benefits of the addiction. We're only sitting on the side of the addictive behavior, aligning ourselves with the pull to continue to use in this sense. And so I want you to imagine for yourself, imagine you're Sarah, or you can think about your own, smartphone use, your own app that you utilize. I know for me, it's YouTube. I get drawn into YouTube. For Sarah, it's Pinterest because she can research craft projects for her family. For Tony, it might be, shopping on eBay for different things. But what would be the benefits of going on the smartphone? What are the advantages of that? And then we're going to look at what are the disadvantages of the new goal behavior. And so you could, type it in the chat to Jill, and we maybe relate a few of them. But let's walk through some of the ideas that that Sarah came up with. She said, it's a nice break from clinical work. I love that idea. I know when I'm at the end of my day, I'm like, oh, I could just, you know, catch a few high sports highlights on YouTube, and it feels like a good break. It's fun and it's inspiring. She can learn things and grow from it. It's relaxing and easy. She doesn't have to think so hard. It's a great way to help her mind be free and relax. And after all, it's not so bad. There are worse things out there. Jill, are there any other ideas that are coming
Yeah,
up?
I could share. I got creative and fun. A way to give the brain something else to do, a task shift. It's a wind down time to go on Pinterest. It's convenient. I get a dopamine rush. I get to decompress. It's a reward for a draining day with clients. I get new ideas, connect with family, marks the end of a workday. So many great ideas. People totally are into it.
Yeah, I love that. And that's what makes it so appealing. And that's where, app developers create algorithms to draw you in because they make it appealing, they make it wonderful. And there is some value, there's some purpose in it, and it's wonderful. Well, then we also want to look at what are the disadvantages of the new goal behavior? What are the drawbacks? What are the costs of doing case notes? I know for me, it's a necessary evil of my work. I love working with people, but I hate doing reporting in case notes. And so put your ideas in. What's the drawback? What's the terrible things about doing case notes at the end of the day? For Sarah, she'd come up with a few things like, discipline's tough. It takes effort and energy at the end of the day. It's hard work when you're tired. And she's going to have to deprive herself of some pleasure and escape. And she's also going to have to kind of find other time for her Project Pinterest craft research. What are some of the other ideas that are coming up there, Jill?
Yeah, so Mike, what I would say is some people followed the instructions and said the disadvantages of the goal behavior, but some people did the disadvantages of procrastination.
Oh, I'm so glad that happened because that's exactly what our temptation is to do is to go for the disadvantages of the goal behavior. And this is the opposite end of the spectrum. It's very paradoxical. We're really looking for what are the advantages, or sorry, the disadvantages of the new goal behavior, because that's what's going to prevent her from doing her goal behavior.
Yeah, so disadvantages of goal behavior, it's boring. I got a lot of that. It's drudgery. I'm tired. Let's see. I'm reading a couple that are more the disadvantages of procrastination. A lot of people did that. So it's very interesting, but you know, didn't realize the paradoxical nature of this column, right? But I got notes are literally the bane of my existence. Need a break.
Yay, I love that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's fantastic. And for those that were thinking about the disadvantages, that would be a straightforward cost benefit analysis. You could certainly use that. But what we want to do with any habit addiction is really align ourselves with the powerful forces that will draw her into continuing with the behavior and push her away from the new goal behavior. And you can use the same technique with any addiction. I used it, um, for the guys in the treatment center with meth addiction or cocaine. What's the benefits of doing cocaine? What are the drawbacks of going to NA? What are the benefits of doing meth? What are the drawbacks of, going to treatment center or calling your sponsor? Now, once we have all of these, we want to identify that there's actually really two key benefits of using the double paradox. The first is it's a deep form of empathy. We want to understand the struggle. And I don't know about you, but when I, heard Sarah's list, I felt a lot more connected to her. And I'm wondering if some of you feel like, oh yeah, that's me too. And also with the drawbacks. And we want to get into that kind of dark struggle together with our clients. The second reason is that it really puts the patient in the role of arguing for change. I'm not trying to convince her to change. I'm actually giving her the opportunity to continue with the solution that has been working for her in some way. And the way we do that is we use what's called the pivot question. And we asked the question, considering all the costs and drawbacks of doing case notes and all the wonderful benefits of continuing to go on Pinterest, why would you want to give that up? Now, I think there's a little bit of Sarah in all of us that wouldn't want to give it up. And Sarah's not just a made-up case or a vignette. Sarah's a real person. And Sarah's here today. And we're going to draw Sarah in to do a little of modeling of some of the exercise that we're going to do. And before we do that, you would never do this with somebody just jumping in off the cuff. You need to, with everything we do in the team CBT approach, have a powerful therapeutic connection, an alliance. You have an empathic connection with them. And Sarah is a colleague of mine who I have tremendous respect for, and she knows I'm on her team. I'm on her side. We're in the same goal together. We're in the darkness together, sharing some of these challenges. And we've done some work, previously. And so when I invited her to do this, I did it with confidence that she knows I'm for her and have tremendous respect for her. And so Sarah, can I draw you in and ask you this question? Would that be okay?
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Sarah, we looked at all the benefits of going on Pinterest, how it really, it's such a escape and freeing for you. And considering all these wonderful benefits of going on Pinterest and all the awful things with case notes, why would you want to give up Pinterest? It's so great.
It is really great. And I love going on there, but I notice that I am getting further and further behind in my notes. And then when I am done for the day, I'm actually not mentally finished. I'm still thinking about those notes and what I have to do, even when I'm having dinner with my family or for the rest of the evening. It takes away from that time with them.
But it's so relaxing just to take a break and go on Pinterest.
It is relaxing, but it's like the benefit of it is getting less and less because it's taking more and more time from my family and the other things that I need to do. And it makes me it makes me so frustrated about what I have to do when I spend
Oh,
time in there.
to step out of kind of our demo here, you'll notice what's happening is, as a therapist, I'm actually trying to convince Sarah to continue with Pinterest. And it's not me that's doing that. I'm actually just that internal resistance that she already has that we've brought to life using the double paradox. And she's now arguing for change. She's like, no, I need to change this. I want to get back on track. I want to be free at the end of the day from having those notes hanging over my head and be able to just enjoy my family more. And so once your client is arguing for change, then we can move into methods. And so we ask ourselves, well, how do we do this? How do we bring about change? And today we're going to model two methods for you. And the first one is called stimulus control. Now, if you want more methods, there's a workshop coming up at the end of March on the 28th. We'll have a link for it as well. It's a full day workshop where David Burns and Jill are going to be teaching all of these methods a little more in depth. You'll get a chance to do some practice and you'll learn about the rest of the motivational techniques that we utilize to address these as well. We're going to give you just a brief taste, but if you want more, then that is certainly available to you. So Sarah, the first technique I'm going to suggest to you is one we call stimulus control, which is used in lots of different addictions. When we don't have the, tempting stimuli in front of us, we're less likely to engage in it. And so we want to remove that stimuli. And so for you, it might be putting your device in another room to prevent access to it until after 5 p.m. or even removing Pinterest from your phone. For other people, it might be removing Facebook or Instagram or WhatsApp. But for you, would you be willing to remove Pinterest from your phone or put your device in another room?
Oh boy, I don't know if I could take it off of my phone. I think that would be a little bit too rough for me, but I probably could put it in another room until I'm done working, until my day was finished. Yeah.
So it sounds like it would be hard to take it off of your phone, and you're willing to put your phone in another room. And that may be effective enough. We may find, in time, and they'll do some experiments to test that even that's not enough. You may have to remove it from your phone. Would you be willing to do that if it continues to be a problem?
I know it just sounds so difficult. I could start with putting in another room and maybe see how that goes.
Okay. You can see there's a little bit of negotiation that goes on here, and I'm still offering her the opportunity to continue with her habit and addiction. It may be also the potential of limiting, the use. For me, put a timer on my YouTube access, and that might be an avenue that Sarah would consider as well, or a timer as to when she can use it. But we're going to start with having it in another room until after 5. Okay, great. Well, we want to use another technique here, and Tony's going to walk us through this next one and model it for you.
So this next method is called the devil's advocate, and this is one of my absolute favorite things to do in a therapy session with somebody. It's a cognitive and a role play method where we really fight against and challenge the seductive, tempting part of our brain that is promising us relief or pleasure, but always delivers that long-term pain and sorrow. So the therapist, or I'll be playing the role of the patient's tempting thoughts, the devil, so to speak, and the patient will be the angel. They'll be arguing back with their rational, reasonable, self-controlling side of them, their self-control voice. And the purpose of this method is to have the patient generate for themselves positive self-control thoughts that are 100% believable and real to them, that they can use to gain some control back and defeat the tempting voice in their head. So, to review, some of Sarah's tempting thoughts were, if I take a break, I'll be more productive, and I've been working hard. I deserve a break. Or the classic one, I don't know if y'all can relate to this. I can totally relate to this one. I'll only stay on for 1 more minute. So we're going to demo the method, but before we do that, I'm just going to go over how it works. So in a tempting seductive voice, the therapist is going to use word for word the patient's tempting thoughts and then hit them with that thought. The patient will respond using their self-control voice. They'll be the angel. After one interaction using one thought, the therapist will pause and ask, who won? The tempting voice or the voice of self-control? And furthermore, was it a small win or a big win? Was it a big win or a huge win? And this is important to note, though there will be no role reversals. I won't assume the angel voice, she won't assume the devil voice. We'll stay locked in our roles. And if the patient cannot defeat the tempting thought, we just fall back to empathy, voicing the resistance with open hands, non-judgmentally. So we're going to look at the tempting thought, I've been working hard, I deserve a break. So, Sarah, do you know who I am?
Yes, Tony, you're my tempting thoughts.
That's right. I'm that part of you, that voice in your head. It's the end of the workday. You've done such a good job. You've been working so hard, Sarah. You deserve a break.
Oh, I have been working hard. But I deserve to feel as though I'm done with the day. I just want to be finished with these notes and get done. And going on Pinterest is not going to accomplish that. It's going to actually make me feel worse.
So was that a who's winning?
I'm winning.
Small or big?
That was I'd say a big win. Big win.
Big or huge?
Probably just big.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe maybe you should just keep going on Pinterest. You really do deserve a break. And then again, it's this really relaxing and beautiful thing that you're doing to research craft project for your family. Maybe we should look at something else to work on. It's so
I'm just
relaxing.
gonna, I'm just going to point out what Tony is doing here. There can be this real overwhelming urge for therapists to try and help their patients and convince them to overcome their addiction. And Tony is staying paradoxical. He's saying, "Yeah, I'm with you. Maybe there's a party that doesn't want to go with it." And so we fall back to empathy, like he's done, and just voice the resistance and go open hands. And then we wait for our patient to respond. Go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, I agree that Pinterest is a lot of fun, but it is so much more enjoyable to be with my family when I'm fully there. And I really want to be with them and not have my mind somewhere else, not be thinking about notes. And honestly, I have an obligation to my clients to finish those notes while I can remember everything in the session. And I don't want to spend my time with my family doing something that's not really fully giving them myself.
So I'm convinced that Sarah wants to continue with this. So what we'll do is we'll repeat the same exercise and see if she can get a huge win. So Sarah, it's me again. It's that voice of relaxation and self-care, and I'm just reminding you, you've been working so hard. You deserve a break.
I really deserve to feel like I've done a complete day. And my day is not finished until I have those notes done. And really, my problem is believing you that if I take this time away, that I'll be more productive. I won't. I'll feel less accomplished and I'll be more stressed out. So I'm going to get these notes done. I'm not going to get on Pinterest now. It's not helping me.
Who's winning?
Me.
Small or big?
That was a big win.
Big or huge?
Huge, huge.
Awesome. So once the patient gets a huge win, both the therapist and the patient will write it down. Then I'll model what we do next. So Sarah, how true is that thought that you just had that you're actually going to feel less accomplished and more stressed out, and that you deserve to feel like you've completed your workday in its totality? How true is that on a scale from 0 to 100?
Oh, I believe that 100%. That's true.
And what's more is, let's go back to the tempting thought that you've been working hard and you deserve a break. In light of this new self-controlling thought, how convincing is this original tempting thought that, you've been working hard and you deserve a break, 0 to 100?
Oh, probably like 15 to 20%.
Awesome.
Great. Now you may be thinking, well, this is a little bit simulated or a bit set up, and yet Sarah will for sure say that this has actually been a real problem for her. And while there is some aspects of it that's a little bit simulated, she will continue to struggle with this at times, and she'll need to continue to challenge those tempting thoughts. And while the intensity of this problem, Sarah would be considered a, very functioning therapist. She does eventually get all her notes done, and she has an extremely high standard, and she works with her family. The fact is, it has been painful for her, and even though it may not be a really intense, overwhelming, life-altering, problem for her, it's been a struggle, and she deserves to get relief from that struggle, as do many of you that also, indicated that you spend more time on your phone than you would like. For some people, it may require multiple approaches and additional methods. We may utilize things like self-monitoring, right? Like if you pulled out your phone right now, there's likely a tracking on it with every app that you use, and it can show you how much time you actually put in. You pull that out, it can be very sobering. There can be things like accountability check-ins. The basis of a lot of the support groups is built on accountability. Things like the problem solution method or the decision-making forum. And today, Sarah has done, a pretty dramatic self-disclosure by putting herself out there in front of the over 500 people attending right now and then on the video. And that can also be a powerful way to break free from it, taking the hiddenness out of it. There's so many more techniques, and David and Jill in the workshop on the 28th will be going over many of these techniques in more depth. One of my struggles was in the mornings, I'm great at starting books, but terrible at finishing them. So I have a whole stack of books that I started and didn't finish, or ones that I wanted to read. And so knowing I was going to do this webinar, I implemented some of these techniques at a new level for my reading. And in the mornings, instead of going on YouTube, I commit to actually reading. And over the past month, I'm on track now to read on average 4 books a month. And I was completing exactly 0 a month before that. I was dabbling in a number of them, but it feels really good to overcome that. Now I still struggle. YouTube calls out my name every morning and says, come over here rather than doing your reading. And so there may be additional methods. One of the books that was on my read list was Atomic Habits. And I think it's a great read, and I'd highly recommend it, where he goes over some more of the additional techniques. Um, the other option that I highly recommend is if you go to Dr. Burns' website, this is the feelinggood.com at the bottom here, and you scroll to the very bottom of the home page, he offers a free chapter on habits and addictions. When he was writing his book, Feeling Great, I lobbied for him. I said, David, please include it, the habits and addictions in the book. And I think his publisher said, no, the book's too long. So he gives it away for free. You just put your email address in and he'll send you a copy of that. And I highly recommend you get that. There's a couple of other resources there as well. And certainly on our website, feelinggoodinstitute.com, there's additional webinars on procrastination and some of the other habits and addictions that you can access. I want to save a little time for some Q&A, so I'm going to invite Jill to lead us in that now.
All righty there. Oops. Okay, you can hear me and see me, right, Mike?
Yeah, you look good.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I have been collecting some questions from you all through the chat. And I probably won't see your additional questions now as I'm starting to read the ones I've already received. We always get more questions than we can respond to anyway. But first I'll just read 2 comments that I thought were great. Someone responded about the double paradox. I love how this seems to lessen the shame. There really are legit reasons that we're attracted to technology, which I thought was a great comment. And Sarah, we got a comment that said, hi, Sarah, I see you. Notes are soul sucking for me. So this deeply resonates. I'm hoping you can inspire me. So I figured I would start with those 2 comments.
I love both of those because they really highlight the deeper empathy tool that double paradox provides. You know, many times when I worked in the treatment center with intense addictions, people brought to tears, and not feeling alone in it, it really does remove the shame. So thank you for those comments. You're right on point.
Totally. Let's see. We got several questions. I'll turn this one to Tony, and then of course you can always turn it back over to Mike. But we got a lot of questions along the line of what happens if the tempting voice wins? What do you do then? Or another version, what if the client can't come up with the voice of self-control and they give in to temptation? What do you do when those tempting thoughts win?
So this is a really beautiful part of team and of the method in particular is we fully embrace that. We see all of the benefits, all of the good, all of the reasons why the current behavior is working for them, and we just fall back to empathy and open hands and ask them if there's maybe something else that they want to look at. Another problem they might want our help with, because it sounds like scrolling on Pinterest right now it's really relaxing and you deserve a break.
It can be so hard to do. As a therapist, we so desperately want to help people. And yet, if you try to convince an addict to stop what they're doing, they're likely more to do it more, right? Because I don't know about you, but when people tell me what to do, I'm like, oh yeah, I don't think so. Whereas if we, get invited to be supported, the one qualifier I would say is there are times when you do fall back and they say, oh no, I just can't think of the self-control. It's not coming to me. And they're actually really convincing us that they want to change. Then you might want to fall into some other methods first. You might go back to doing some additional work, some examine the evidence, identifying distortions, some problem solution to get them an opportunity to kind of open up the the juices in the brain to be able to actually access some of those counter self-control thoughts. So I would never try to convince them to change, but I will still offer the opportunity for them to explore additional ways to change if they're really asking for that.
Yeah. And Mike, I'll ask you this one. Someone asked a question. They said, I think I understand what they're getting at here. It makes sense to me. So can you discuss functional alternatives to technology addictions? And the comment they're making is that completing clinical notes as an alternative to Pinterest scrolling doesn't strike me as a functional alternative, meaning that completing clinical notes fulfills a very different need than Pinterest scrolling does. And so it's kind of interesting. I think there's almost like maybe someone would want to like overcome their Pinterest scrolling habit and replace that with something else that was healthy, but maybe also kind of scratch the same itch. Versus what you're working on here, which is actually, both kind of reducing Pinterest scrolling and kind of overcoming procrastination. So I guess the question here is like, this is something I struggle to help clients clarify for themselves. Can they identify what unmet needs screen time fulfills? Do they need to replace it with something that meets that same need?
Yeah, it's such a good question. And this is where working individually with clients, finding out what would be their, preferred behavior in that moment, right? So oftentimes it would be things like when I worked in the treatment center, she would say, "Oh, I want to go to the gym and be healthy instead of going to the bar," right? So that would be a replacement behavior in that sense. But it might also be, in those moments when I'm really tempted, what I really need to do is call my sponsor or go to a meeting. So this would be, even as you're figuring out that specificity, what is the goal behavior? What would you rather be doing? What is it that you're hoping to do? In this case, the relief comes from not having that hanging over her head, this, kind of negative task. Like for me, oftentimes I hate doing admin tasks. For me, it's the taxes, and so I'll set aside a Saturday morning to do my taxes. And I will clean toilets instead of doing my taxes. That's my drug of choice, right? And so what's the alternative behavior? Well, I'm procrastinating on doing the taxes. When I get the taxes done, then I'm free to do other things that are fun for me. Like go for a bike ride or spend time with my family. And so I asked myself, what is it, like with that graphic, 10 years of my life spent on the phone as opposed to free time. What would I rather be doing with my free time? Well, for me, it's, I like outdoors activities and connecting with my family and, reading right now will be other things. But then we find out from your client, what are those things that they'd like to be doing? What's on their bucket list for their life? Do they really want to spend 7 years of their life on their phone? And maybe it's movie watching. They might want to, instead of scrolling on their phone, they might want to, I love watching classic movies and I never get around to it. So be figuring out with the
Yeah,
client.
lots of people actually put some things in the chat box even as you were answering the question.
Oh, great.
Like, and the point is that actually, I'm sorry, I'm getting over a cold here, but that we work very collaboratively with our patient to figure out what is the goal behavior, right? Like it's not, we can brainstorm with them, but really they can come up with these things. And are they solving for just not doing Pinterest and doing something, that scratches the itch that's more productive, like calling a friend, or are they actually trying to get their chart notes done? In which case, couple of people wrote in the chat box too, we might say we're going to get our chart notes done and then we can use Pinterest just after the chart notes are done. And then it becomes sort of like a reward for getting, the
Yeah.
hard work done. So there's lots of ways we can set this up, and we do set this up collaboratively. There was a question in the chat box that I thought was worth, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to find it, but that was worth bringing up because it was different. Oh, I know. It was saying like, would you use this for a patient who doesn't think the behavior is a problem? Like I only drink 1 glass of wine a night. And I'm just going to quickly answer, no, we don't think it's our role to tell our patients that they need to change or, to come up with goals for our patients. Really, so much of this model, the team CBT model, is based on the idea of paradoxically saying, we're happy with you as you are now. You need to convince me why you need to change, why this is a problem for you. And then I'm happy to help you with whatever your goal is. So I just felt like that was an important distinction to make. And I
Yeah,
will just,
that would exactly be my answer too, Jill. Say
okay.
100%.
And I will drop the CE survey in the chat at 55. Those of you who are looking for it, you won't see it till then, but you will be able to see it in the chat, even if you couldn't see the slides. That has something to do with Adobe, I think. So let's see. We got, let me just see. Oh, someone asked, Tony, I'll ask you this one, but wouldn't stopping an addiction without focusing on what exactly started it lead to another fixation? Do we need to understand what started an addiction in order to help?
So I think that in the methods that we discussed today, there could be a lot of helpful information about what started an addiction. Um, my gut answer is actually we don't need to know what started an addiction in order to stop it. We need to know what's um, giving it its force and momentum in the current moment. What is the problem now, and how is it perpetuating itself? Uh, we can get lost in abstraction and in the past and early childhood experience. And if we just unlock this particular memory, maybe we'll be able to overcome our addiction. But usually the battle is in the trenches, in that exact moment when you're about to pick up something that you don't want to pick up. There's a voice in your head telling you why you should do it. And if we can really understand and listen to that voice in that moment, we have a really a good chance of overcoming it. I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah, I think that's right, that we don't necessarily need to know what started it, but we do need to know what's maintaining it. And that's what we're working on. And similarly to not always knowing what started someone's anxiety disorder, what started someone's bout of depression, but we absolutely have strategies we can help people to overcome those things.
The one thing I might add to that is that, it's really key to establish that connection initially. And so you may hear a lot of the story of how it started, and that can be an important part of, getting into their into their journey with them, but not necessarily. Like when I worked in the treatment center, I heard some horrifying stories of experiences and how they got started and but we're working in the here and now. We can't change the past in that sense. It might give us some deeper kind of connection with somebody. And when I worked in the center, I I gave them the opportunity to work on, anxiety or depression or relationship problems, because each of those could have contributing, components to them to the addiction, right? If they're really anxious all the time and then they go socially drinking because it's the only way they can meet people. Well, we might want to work with some anxiety tools as well, right? As part of an overall package. So it's not that we ignore them, but we work with what's in the here and now to help them overcome the addiction.
People are putting so many great comments in the chat box too. Someone said, I use the analogy of the 12-step philosophy, which is there's a donkey in the ditch. Doesn't matter how it got there. It matters how we get it out of the ditch and prevent it from falling back into the ditch.
Yeah.
So thank you. I love that.
Great one.
Lots of people are referring actually to saying that the team CBT methods are kind of in line with the 12-step program of
Yeah.
acknowledging that we're powerless and looking at consequences and things like that. So and sort of tapping into motivation. So I won't be able to read all those comments, but Mike, one more question maybe you can answer. This was from obviously someone who's come to other trainings of ours, and maybe you can briefly touch on this. The double paradox seems to follow the pattern of the decision-making tool. I've used the decision-making tool a bit, but I'm wondering if there are critical differences between these two approaches.
Yeah, for those that are familiar with the decision-making form, it has 4 quadrants where you look at the, advantages and disadvantages of each of the 2 options, right? And so it's a little kind of more in-depth, fuller, looking at all the angles. The key difference would be that I use the double paradox. It's a little bit cleaner and simpler because you're just looking at the paradoxical side. You're just aligning yourself with the advantages of the current drug of choice and the disadvantages of the new goal behavior. And so it's almost like it's taken 2 of the quadrants out of the decision-making form and just simplified and put them there. So that's why I utilize that. David's developed something called the triple paradox now as well, which adds another column, which is what do these behaviors and this activity actually show about you that's kind of awesome and wonderful. What about your value system, right? Like in Sarah's case, it might be, she goes on Pinterest to look for craft ideas because she's, making kind of creative, unique things as gifts for her family. Well, it shows that she really cares and loves her family, right? So the fact that she's gotten into this, right, has really an admirable quality that she has. Um, so without getting too much into the decision-making form, that's a whole nother kind of course on its own, but that would be kind of the basic difference. Anything you want to add to that, Jill?
No, I think that's great. And I think what we've shared today is in terms of the double paradox is just a highly paradoxical tool, right? We're really not looking at the benefits of changing, but we do ask that question with the pivot question that Tony shared with everyone when we say, yeah, given all these, great reasons to keep doing this, why would you want to change? And that's kind of where the patient gets to voice kind of argue for change. And that's what so many of our methods are based on, not just for habits and addictions, for depression and anxiety as well, is really putting kind of the therapist aligning with the staying the same, right? And the reason that we do that is it's a deep form of empathy, but also it kind of puts the patient then in the role of arguing for change rather than us as therapists trying to kind of cajole and push and convince our patients to change, which kind of leads to burnout on the part of the therapist and often just increasing resistance on the part of the patient as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Mike, if you can move us forward, I have a couple kind of final things to say, and I dropped the link in the chat box. So if you haven't yet completed the CE survey, it is there in the chat box. I dropped it 2 times, and I know lots of you have seen it. So we do have an upcoming workshop we'd love you to join us on, where we're going to explore these techniques and many, many more. And that's on March 28th. And there's a coupon code you can use if you register for the workshop today. And the coupon code is on here in the yellow, says lasting change. So you can register for the workshop. It's an all day, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. live online workshop. Someone asked me in the chat box, will it be recorded? So it will be live online. You join us, throughout the day. But if you do register for it, you will have access to a recording of it that you can watch after the fact, but you do need to be present live for the CEs. And I will say the unique thing about our workshops is that we teach strategies didactically, we demonstrate them. We also invite you as volunteers to demonstrate with us. But probably the most helpful part of the day is that you go into breakout groups where we have helpers helping and you actually practice the method. So I am aware that as you're sitting here in this 1-hour webinar, you might be like, that sounds great, but how do I actually do that? And you will actually have practice sessions, 3 different practice sessions throughout the day where you actually get to learn the methods and get feedback and stuff like that. So we hope that you'll join us for that. Let's see what else do we have in terms of slides? How to get your CE credit. You should have seen that in the chat box, and I'll drop the CE survey one last time, the 3rd time here in the chat box for anyone who missed it. And Mike, I think we're going to end with some thank yous. So first, let me say thank you to Mike and Tony and Sarah. I think you guys did a fabulous job, and there was lots of activity in the chat box, so lots of people finding what you presented today really interesting and compelling. And then Mike, I'll let you kind of say a final thank you and goodbye to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us, and yeah, special appreciation to Sarah for inviting us, into your world. And we have something that we call the companion method, and that's when one person heals, we kind of all go along for the journey. And I know that even working with Sarah and working through this, I'm better with my tech addiction, and so I trust that all of you will be as well. And Tony, always just such a pleasure to work with you, and present with you. And I just invite everyone to join David and Jill. I still contend, and David will say this too, that Jill is arguably the best trainer in psychotherapy today. I've learned so much from her, and you will not want to miss that day, because it's going to be awesome. I get to host it and kind of welcome you all and hang out, and then hand it over to Dave and Jill. So have a wonderful week, everyone. Hopefully we'll see you in a few weeks.
Okay, bye-bye. Till the next time. Take care, everybody.